Billy says, don't unhook your pads, we're going to get the ball back.
Second down and 11 for Arkansas, 1:47 remaining. One timeout left. Call it 12 to go for the first down. Sterner lost the football! Oh my goodness! He stumbled and fumbled, and Billy Ratliff recovered!
Vol General sent me a link. I think it was Vol General. Might have been somebody else. I don't know. That national championship year. Before we get going, I wanted to ask you something off air. That David Leverton hit on, what was his name? Peter Warwick?
Yes.
I don't know. When it was happening live, I thought it was a monster hit. I guess with the emotions. But now that I've kind of seen it, 20 years later, and you kind of matured a little bit, I want to know about them kickers. I mean, he hit him pretty good. You got to admit, he did hit him pretty good. But what were they like at practice? Did they do Lover's Lane? I know Jarvis Rito told me one time on the phone that he hated Lover's Lane because you were always hyped up. But what were the kickers doing in practice?
I think I don't even remember where the kickers was at those times. I think that they was either inside the complex practicing kicks, or actually, I think I remember one time going in. I remember seeing them throwing frisbees and stuff, and I was like, "Hold on, man, how you guys get to do this?" And that's the time when I had to go into the training room and do my rehab and stuff. And I remember seeing the guys throwing frisbees. I was like, man, these guys got it made. But
frisbees,
yeah, man. But they had it hard too, man. It wasn't nothing easy for the guys, man. They were just as tough as us, man. They had to do everything else. I mean, they didn't get to practice like us as far as the hitting and things like that. They had to save that hits. I mean, like the David Leverton hit, man. You never know when that time's gonna come. So. I think it was a surprise when I saw David did that too. So,
well, something, thinking about it, that's got to be, between the kicker and the long snapper's got to be the most difficult position on the field. Quarterback, I guess, is most important, but man, getting that snap down and the kick down, and what do you think would be the easiest thing for you to do, Billy? A 40-yard field goal, hitting a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, or hitting the green on a par 3 from the tee box?
Oh, man, I'm going to have to go with the 90-mile fastball. That's something that the baseball players see all the time, and, for us to golf on hitting the green, they're used to hitting the green on a par 3 unless they got this on the sawgrass and it's surrounded by water. But a kicker, man, they got to have, I couldn't do it. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you because I couldn't miss the game-winning kick and also go back out in public, especially in Knoxville or any school that you play for as a kicker, on a nationally screen, to see people like booing you and death threats and get the heck out of town, and it's tough on those kickers. I mean, it's a lot harder than people really think it is. I've always seen it like when the halftime shows where the SEC championship, we have the Dr. Pepper kick thing where they kick it, and if they make it, they get something for their scholarship or $1 million or something. It's rarely that you see those guys make it, and they have it on a tee.
Yeah.
These guys got to have it on a tee with someone holding it and still got to kick it 40 yards into the upright, and it's not easy. I mean, I used to think it was until I actually tried to do it myself before, and I'm like, how the heck these guys kick this ball off the side of their foot or with the tip of their toe or something? I couldn't do it either way, so it's a tough situation for those kickers out there, man.
Do you think you could kick a field goal, a 20-yarder?
Bobby, I don't.
15-yarder.
I might be able to do 15, 20 yards, but anything beyond that, I'm thinking it's going to be tough. I mean, the extra point will probably be the only one I may be able to make, but depend on what angle that thing's sitting on.
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think I can make an extra point. I just don't think. You buddy Jeff Hall, how much do you think he could bench press back in the day?
Ooh, man, I'm trying to What did the Kickers? I'm trying to think of those numbers. You're going to make me bring out my cheat sheet and see if they had on the Wall of Fame up there. Let's see here.
Yeah, old Ron Green posted something on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
About all the record holders. Who was the record holder for kickers? Leverton?
I don't remember, man. You know, that's going to be a Jeff Hall question there, man, because I know he knows who had those records. I mean, playing the position and getting those long diverticers and all those things, I know he remember those numbers.
Yeah, we're going to have to get Jeff Hall on the show one of these days.
Oh,
well, anyway, we've got a guest here, Billy. One of your old teammates. I've been trying to surprise you for a long time, and I got you with your sister last week. You know I got you on that one.
You got me. But I mean, soon as I heard, I knew exactly who it was. So it was an easy guess for me, but it was a surprise to me, man. So as far as the element of getting me, of not knowing who I'm talking to, you never will get me, Bobby.
All right, special guest, go ahead and introduce yourself to the Volunteer Roadshow and Billy Ratliff.
Billy, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. What's going on, my man?
All right, so door number 1 is David Leverton. Door number 2 is Benson Scott. Door number 3 is Jeff Hall.
Oh, now that's easy too, man. Hey, the best man would never put himself last unless he was trying to surprise somebody. The number 1 and only, the best kicker that ever come through the volunteer world. Come on now, Jeff. You can't do it like that, man. He already done told to spill the beans by talking about the show already. Come on, this is too easy, Bobby. Come on, my man. Jeff, how you doing, man?
I'm great. What if I would have said, like, Dustin Colquitt?
Oh, man. Hey. Whew.
Then I would have thrown you for a loop then.
Now, I mean, that's to me still no comparison, man. I mean, I still say you got the leg, man. That's going to be hard to beat, man. Too many big games on the line for you to not even say that you're the top of the list for the Vols, man. Too many. You saved our tails too many games.
Let me just say this. I don't know who had the bench record at UT, but for a while I did have the squat record.
Okay.
And I will confirm, I don't recall ever throwing a Frisbee in the complex.
Hey, I'm serious, man. I remember everybody. Who was it out there? I remember Loudermilk was out there.
Yes.
Larry Binion. I remember him. I remember these guys, man.
Oh, man.
I was like, hold on. How y'all throwing Frisbees?
Yeah, I don't recall a Frisbee. I'm not saying they didn't do it, but I'm just saying I don't remember it myself.
Oh, man, those were the good old days, man. I mean, Jeff, what's going on, man? How you doing these days, man?
I'm doing well. doing well. I just here in Knoxville working. Got some meetings today, so thankfully Bobby got in touch with me and told me what y'all were doing. I thought, yeah, I want to be a part of that. So so this is neat. I'm glad to be on the phone with you this morning.
Man, I'm thank you for even being on the show, man. This is amazing, man. Trying to get some of the old school guys back on in and try to share some of our stories we went through, and hard times, good times, and how blessed we was just to make it through the University of Tennessee. And just tell me this, man. What do you think the Vols gonna look like this year, man? How you think my boys gonna look over there on the hill, man?
Well, I think the offensive line is going to be a little bit better. I think they're going to be younger, but they'll be on a steep learning curve, so they're going to have to learn quickly. I think the defense is just going to continue to get better and better because you've got a head coach who's a D coordinator, and I don't know if you've been over to any scrimmages or practices, but I went to a scrimmage last year. It was really odd seeing your head coach on the defensive side line during a scrimmage. That was interesting. Because, when we played, and for the longest time, your head coach was always on the offensive sideline during a scrimmage. So it was interesting to see Pruitt, the head coach, coaching from the defensive sideline.
Yeah,
I don't know. That was new to me. That may not be new to you, but that was something interesting that I noticed that I just hadn't seen before.
And that's probably just because of his defensive background. I mean, he wants to be over there. You know, that's kind of like with Coach Foreman. You know, he was always in the offensive line rooms when it came to meeting time, and he wanted to make sure that part of the whole offense was taken care of, even though he didn't control it. You know, those coaches took care of their business, and I think Coach Pruitt was doing the same thing on being on the defensive side of the ball over there to just make sure those guys are actually practicing what he's taught them to do to these kids. So that's probably why he was over there. I mean, I think this year you may not see him over there as much as he was last year because of the offense and defensive coordinator, but I still think you'll see him a little bit just because that's still his baby. So he's going to make sure it's protected.
Yeah, I wonder if him growing up under the Saban coaching tree, if you will, I wonder if Muschamp does that. I wonder if Kirby does that. You know, because Saban's more of a defensive guy too, so I'm wondering if that's part of that coaching tree, that Saban coaching tree mentality, and what they do. I don't know. I've never been to a practice or a scrimmage at some of those other schools, but yeah, I'm excited. I mean, what do they always say? Offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. I mean,
oh man,
right?
That sounds
right?
So good. So, hey, Bobby, hey, how many times have I said that? How many times have I said that?
Hey, look, I may have kicked, but I'm an old. I know that the game begins and ends at the line of scrimmage, and I also know that based on, of course, my experience, my 4 years, and of course Billy's going to say the same thing. Is defense won us championships. I mean, you got to have good players on the other side of the ball. They've got to be able to make plays, but you know, there is nothing like breaking another team's will than when you make a goal line stand like we did at Auburn, or picking up a fumble against Arkansas and running it down the field. Obviously, you know, the fumbles, the interceptions. I mean, that will just take it out of you quickly. So I'm a big fan of having really, really good, sound defensive play.
Well, I'll tell you this, Eddie, man. I mean, you have some big kick special games throughout our career at the University of Tennessee, man. But I still say, man, that the kick you did when we played Syracuse and won the ball game, you know, I think that was one of the biggest kicks that I remember, you know, because that was not an easy game. It was not even an easy place to even play inside of, because the Carrier Dome was a crazy place to play because of, you know, it was called the Carrier Dome, but if you remember, it felt like we was out there in Arizona inside that dome.
Well, thankfully, we'd been training down south in the heat and humidity.
Yeah.
So have we been practicing up north, somewhere a little bit cooler? You know, that might be a little bit different. So I think we were pretty well conditioned for that game. The turf was a little challenging. You know, now just every other game's played on turf, but it, you know, that, and of course I wasn't getting thrown on it and beat down on it, but you know, playing on turf, from what I can remember, could take it out of you pretty good too.
So how did you think making that field goal that game got you ready for the rest of the season, as far as when you had to make the big kick with us beating Florida that year as well? How do you think that helped you contribute to making that kick for the Florida game?
Well, it's like anything else. If you want to come out of the gate strong, and I think for all of us, I mean, how many times were we the underdog that year? Were we 6-7 times?
Yes.
We were the underdog against Syracuse. We were the underdog, I think, maybe against Florida. We were the underdog against Florida State. I can't remember. But anyway, we were traveling to someone else's stadium as an underdog, playing probably the greatest quarterback the Big East has ever seen, and Donovan McNabb, not to mention all those other guys they had, like Kevin Johnson and Rod Conrad and all those other guys they had on offense. And then to walk away with a win, and then for all of us to do it in a come-from-behind fashion when everything was on the line, T driving us down the field, Cedric making the catch. I mean, everything just kind of fell in place, and so everybody contributed to get it down to a very, very makeable field goal. So for all of us, that was a great start to the season. It's like, man, you know, we knew we had something special. Now we just proved it to everybody else, and that was a big deal.
I've got a question for you. I've always wanted to know, and thanks for coming on the show about kickers. This icing the kicker, does that work?
I don't know. I don't know if it does or not. There is something to be said for making somebody think about it for a while, because in kicking, kicking is an unnatural motion. The same way that golf is somewhat of an unnatural motion, and so many things athletically are just not natural movements. And so when folks that are good at those movements do them really, really well, they make it look natural, and it's instinctive. You've done it so much that it's just second nature. The problem is the mental side of it is you've done it for so long. It is instinctive, but then given time, sometimes you have a little bit to think about it. I've never seen any statistics. I don't know if there's anything out there where someone's kept track of when an opposing coach has called a timeout, what was the outcome of the field goal? Or when opposing coach didn't call a timeout, what was the outcome? I don't know. I've never seen those statistics. All I know, I didn't make all my kicks. I didn't make the longest kicks, but the thing I'm probably most proud of is that whenever the game was on the line, I always did make those kicks. And sometimes, especially at Syracuse, there was some, timeouts called. That happened at Syracuse. It happened in Georgia. My freshman year, the Florida kick was overtime. There was an extra point against Auburn in the SEC Championship game in '97, so there wasn't a timeout called then. So my experience may be a little bit unique, but it didn't affect me one way or the other. I had kicks where coaches called timeout, and I had kicks where they didn't, and thankfully I made all of them. So long answer to a short question, I have no idea.
Well, take us through. You just mentioned the Florida game in overtime. I remember that. I was there. I was one of the hoodlums that went on the field after the game. But you're in overtime, Jeff. Go back and take us through it. We didn't have a good possession on offense. I think it ended up being like a 40-yard field goal for you. Take us through what's going through your mind leading up to that kick when you know you're going to have to go out there and kick that field goal. It's not a chip shot. The whole world's watching you, and you're in overtime. What goes through your mind as a kicker?
You don't really think about anything. You just relax, and you don't think about your follow through. You don't think about keeping your head down. You don't think about the snap or the hold or anything like that. It's just all needs to be second nature, so that when you get to that point, it's just, as I mentioned before, it's instinctive. And for me, I started doing my mental training for those types of situations when I was a freshman. Coach Former made me go see a professor there at UT, Dr. Craig Risberg, and Dr. Risberg was in the sports type mentality training, psychology type program, and he helped me know how to practice and train myself for the mental preparation, part of the game. And so from early on, I had a system where leading up to the game, every night I had some things that I did mentally, like practicing in my mind different types of situations, and what do I see, what do I hear, what do I smell, what's going on around me. And so when you get to that point where game time comes around, then you've already been there. And so you don't think about all that other stuff, that could go wrong. You just go out there and just do what you've done all week in practice, and all those times that you've thought about it and mentally prepared yourself. And because when you start thinking about stuff, that's when things start to go awry. I'm not much of a golfer. I'll play in a couple of scrambles each year. My buddies will tell you that if you see golf clubs in my hand, someone's raising money that day. So I just know, when talking to other people who are golfers, is there's so many little wrinkles that you can think about with your swing that it could really send you down the wrong path. You know, is my left arm straight? Am I turning my hip? Is my eye on the ball? All this other stuff that goes into hitting a golf ball. It's the same thing with kicking a football. If you start thinking about those little, technique things, those little wrinkles and nuances, then that's going to get you in trouble.
Man, I thought all kickers played golf. I don't know why. Maybe that's a stereotype. You just think it's a natural. But
if they're not playing frisbee, they should be out, hitting golf balls. Kind of fits together, I
guess. I would have never thought that with the golf. I mean, you guys still have back issues and stuff, and I can still think about golfers with the back issues. And I wouldn't think that you guys would want to put your body through that same situation towards the back. So I can relate to you not really being a good golfer or golfing all the time. So I can see that.
Well, I think kicking a field goal's got to be the toughest thing in sports because you got an oblong object that you're striking with an imperfect size foot. It's rounded, two rounded objects. That's got to be the hardest thing in sports. What do you think, Billy?
Well, I told you, like I said, I've tried to do it many times, and I promise you, I've kicked it to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, or too short, or to the ground, or hit someone in the head if they was lined up in front of me. I never can get it. And like you said, it's an unnatural movement when it comes to the leg. And now that I think about it, I guess I was too natural. So,
well, the thing about Billy, I mean, you had your share of injuries. I mean, there's no question. You had your share of injuries, but Billy was just a natural athlete and just freak on the field. And with as many injuries as he struggled with and not being able to maybe lift and run as push as the other guys that stayed healthy for, an extended period of time, I mean, the guy destroyed it. I mean, he was not only naturally strong and naturally quick, I mean, he was just a naturally great athlete. So I don't think there's anything out there that Billy couldn't do. He could have probably taken my job if he wanted to. But I mean, that's just it. I mean, I think what I think is really hard, and maybe I'm crazy, and it's more of like if it happens in a game. I think returning punts is probably one of the most difficult things on the football field.
I can see that too. I mean, catching the ball first, then trying to dodge all these guys that are trying to hit you. So, I guess I can see that too. I mean, that's probably why if it was me back there, I'd be fair catching every time.
Or catching on a one hop, right?
I'd just be letting it bounce.
I tell you this, though, Jeff. I mean, you had a lot of special moments, man. People don't, they take that for granted with the kickers. That's something that Coach Fulmer he stressed on was special teams. That was one of the biggest part of our game plans. And people don't realize. I mean, even in practice, we practice special teams, and when I say, I don't know what you guys did inside when you was kicking the ball, but I knew you guys got a lot of reps. I knew that, but I still to this day, man, you guys, I couldn't do your job. I could, man. It's just too much for me, too mentally. I didn't want anybody giving me death threats and all these things. I can't even imagine someone missing the game-winning field goal.
Well, I remember after the Florida game, Florida's kicker missed in overtime, and I can remember talking to some folks from Florida that knew of him or knew him, and said that he had to really stay low for a while after that.
Oh, wow.
And it's not like you laugh a little bit, but it's really not funny because
that's true.
Something like that happens, I mean, your life is really much, it begins to take a different path immediately after something like that. Yeah. So, it would have been very easy for me to be on the other side of a make or a miss, and I can't imagine what that would have experienced. That experience feels like. I mean, when you miss one, your heart sinks, and it's just the worst feeling in the world. You know, it's in an investment vernacular, human psychology. It feels worse to lose money than it does to feel good to make money. Well, kicking is very, very similar. It actually feels a lot worse to miss than it does to feel good and make. And
I like that.
And it's a maddening experience, to say the least.
Well, Jeff, I've got some questions for you to kind of verify some things people have said about Billy. We had Antron Peebles on, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks
Don't
ago,
believe
Billy?
anything he says. Don't believe anything he says.
Well, he says that how fast Billy was, that he said he could run a 4.6. Do you think Billy could run a 4.6 40?
Easy.
Well, we're all a little bit older, so if you're asking
Back
me if he
then.
could do it now, he might not be able to. But back then, it would not surprise me at all.
Wow.
Hey, Bobby, I'm telling you this,
I don't know,
man.
Billy. What'd you run the 40 in?
Oh, my fastest was 4.58. Averages were like 4.61s.
See, there you go.
You know, and
What defensive lineman out there can run a 4.6 40?
it's tough these days, man. It's tough. I mean, I didn't know that was good back in the day. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Until now that I know that, you know, being that big, you're not really supposed to be that fast. But, you know, I came in as a linebacker, and I thought I was supposed to be fast to be able to keep up with running backs, or if I had to, you know, run with a tight end, or even have to do a receiver. I just thought that's what I had to do. So I didn't care how big I thought I had to be fast. So, and to this day, I mean, I would still try it now. If someone wanted to race, give me 2 weeks, I would try you. Hey, I gotta get those hamstrings right, man.
Yeah, I know. Those hammies tighten up quickly, man. Woo.
Gotta give me some WD-40. I gotta get something to get these bones moisturized, man.
Let them get greased up a little bit.
Now, how your body feeling, by the way, man? I mean, it's been some years. I know you've had some back things going on back in the day, but how you feeling these days?
You know, I'm going to be 43 next month, and I'm in the best shape of my life. 3 weeks ago, I got on the scale before a workout I did. I weighed 186 pounds. That's 5 pounds less than when I graduated from college.
Wow, that's great.
Well, my wife, I was doing some distance running a few years ago, and I'd run a couple of marathons, and my wife has started doing CrossFit. And she's always been kind of a gym rat and really enjoys that stuff. And so I pushed it off, and finally I conceded, and I went a couple of times and just fell in love with it. So, you know, we don't have a lot of hobbies. We've got 4 kids under 7, so that takes a lot of time and effort. And so the CrossFit type workouts and culture and mentality kind of fits our station in life right now. We've got a gym, CrossFit gym, just right down the road. So we started doing that, and have just kind of fell in love with those kind of workouts and, you know, what the whole goal is. And we're not doing crazy stuff. Like, you know, Billy, when we were at UT, we were on the platform 4 times a week.
Yes.
And we were doing Olympic lifts all the time. I've never done a snatch at our CrossFit gym. But I'm deadlifting.
Okay.
You know, I did a workout a few weeks ago named after a guy named Ryan McGee. It's called McGee. It's called a hero workout that CrossFit puts together. And I did 20 rounds of box jumps, push-ups, and deadlifts. And the deadlifts in each round was 5 deadlifts at 275. So I did 100 deadlifts at 275 about a month ago.
Wow.
So that, and then my wife and I have started kind of changing our diet a little bit. So it's a lot cleaner, but again, we've got 4 kids under 7 and under. I mean, when our last child is in college, my wife and I are going to be in our 60s. We got to stay in good shape. I mean, we don't have a choice. You know, it's just going to get harder. So, and frankly, you know, I had back surgery when I was in college, haven't had any problems since. For some reason, God's allowed me to stay healthy, and my joints still work, and functionally I feel good. And so if I'm not staying active and not working out, I really feel like I'm not being a good steward of being healthy in and of itself at this age. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, that's I appreciate you asking. It's it's nice to say that you feel all right and can get up and move and work and push and pull and sweat and do all that stuff. So, how are you feeling?
Well, I'll tell you this, man. I am managing myself, man. I've got some of this weight off my body, man, that I don't need anymore. I mean, I got up to almost 325 pounds, Jeff, and I was like, you know what, man? I mean, I have no purpose for this weight. You know, all these different conditions I end up having and stuff, and I said, you know what? I got to get this stuff off me. And I just set a goal to get this weight off in a year or so, and went out and started working out and eating better, and you know, I got rid of a lot of the weight, man. I got down to almost 255 at one point, but I'm back up to about 270 right now. It's feel good to just be able to walk around and don't have to worry about my knees aching or my ankles aching or get out the bed without the pain as much and stuff. So I'm a whole lot better right now, man. So it's been great to just to feel good for a change.
That's great. That is awesome. It's you know, my wife always says abs are made in the kitchen, and I've learned, especially as we get older, that you can't outwork your diet. If it's a bad diet, you can't outwork it. If it's a good diet, you can't outwork it. You cannot outwork your diet. So we've done some macro type eating, and so we do this program called RP transformations, and it's really good stuff. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've exercised, but there's no way you could have lost that weight if you didn't start eating differently too.
No way, man. I mean, that's the biggest part, was the eating. Is just, you know, portion controls, and, you know what I'm saying, just the time of nights. I mean, like, you know, it's been times where, you know, I'm up at 2 a.m. eating a full meal, which I should be sleeping. You know, I don't do those things anymore. You know, I'm cutting myself off at, you know, 7 o'clock of eating and stuff, and water, man. I've changed the whole mentality of what it used to be. And that's something they didn't teach us to do after the life of football, is to eat a normal diet. You know, this is, you know, a 10,000 calorie diet won't work today, and try to keep weight off. So.
Well, think about it. I mean, we were practicing, but also we were walking to class 10 to 15 minutes 3 or 4 times a day. And, you know, you never really sat down. I mean, you sat down for class for an hour, hour and a half, but then you got up and you walked. You sat down again, then you got up and walked. You sat down again, you got up and walked, and then you went to practice. So you were always on the move. And then and then all of a sudden you're not practicing anymore, and you're maybe sitting down a lot, but you're eating the same. And so you're used to eating that same amount of food, but then you're not nearly as active as you used to be. So, yeah, it works.
Let me ask you a question, Billy. What's your fondest memory or on or off the field of our special guest, Jeff Hall?
Well, there's a lot of memories with Jeff, man. He's one of those guys that, you know, I remember when I came in as a freshman, and, you know, he was one of those guys that, you know, I got the nickname that was called Big Worm, and for the first time when he called me Big Worm, I was like, he can call me that too. and then, it was just a special time, man. We was just a family, man, and to this day, I mean, for as like the play was, you know, I'm still gonna go back down, man, to the Florida game, man. I mean, if it wasn't for him to make that kick, get us over the hump, to finally beat the Gators and go on and win the national championship, I wouldn't have the memory of the Arkansas game, or the memories of us winning the first BCS championship, or just winning the national championship, period, if it wasn't for Jeff. You know, the kickers don't get enough acknowledgement or recognition like they should, but I give everybody the same amount of credit regardless who's my teammate is. You know, I don't have a number 1 or number 2. All these guys are flat level with me. I go to war with them any day, anytime, because I love each and every last one of them. But yeah, that was a special moment for me with Jeff, man.
Well, there's a connection there, and that's just something that if you're not inside those 4 walls or those fences practicing or traveling on the bus or staying in the hotel, it's hard to understand and empathize what that connection looks like and what it feels like, because it's lifelong. It runs very deep, and there's a tremendous amount of loyalty, and it transcends, any background, skin color, where you came from, where you grew up. I mean, it transcends everything, and it's hard to understand it unless you've been there, and that's neat, and that's something that we'll always have as a team. That's just super, super special, and something that we were just fortunate to experience. And then, oh, by the way, we won a championship. We won a bunch of championships, as a matter of fact. And I'll say this about Billy. I'll say that play at the Arkansas game, every week there's games that are won and lost on last-second field goals. Those aren't unique. But what happened with Billy was about a unique an experience in football as someone would ever see. Not just the fumble and the fumble recovery, but the fact that he caused the fumble and recovered the fumble, and the timing of the game that it came and what it led to in and of itself was just so unique. And to me, that play is probably what solidified our run at a national championship. And I'll say this, it could not have happened to a better guy. So, Billy, you made a lot of great plays, man. I mean, you had an impact on the field every time you were out there, and I know that play is what you're remembered the most for. And trust me, I mean, I think all of us as your teammates would say it couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
That's awesome. What was it like on the sideline? Were you close enough to Billy? Because legend has it, I didn't hear it. I wasn't able to hear it, but legend says Billy told T. Martin, "Don't take your helmet off. We're getting the ball back." I don't know. Did you hear that?
Well, you keep in mind you're talking to a kicker who is pretty anal and ornery and doesn't pay a lot of attention except for where the ball is and who's got it. And so I heard that story too. I'm not saying I don't recall it specifically, but I've heard plenty of people say that happened. So
what was it like?
Judgment.
What was it like when that play unfolded? Were you watching it, or were you over? Where were you at on the sideline?
So I always used to stay on the defensive side of the ball. I always was there because the net was on that side, and so the defense was on the right, the offense was on the left. So I was always on the defensive side of the sideline, and that happened about midfield. Was it our 45 or Arkansas's 45, Billy?
It was on Arkansas's 45.
So it was on Arkansas's 45. So I was probably in a position where I couldn't see what happened because of how I was looking and stuff. I just knew amongst all the commotion that something huge had happened, and then just to see the replay of it later, because we didn't have the Jumbotron at that time, I just knew how incredible that moment was. And at that point, for me, I'm celebrating, but the switch flips, and I'm thinking, all right, we're down 2 points. I may have to kick another field goal here. And I'm like, I really don't want to, because it was going towards the river. There was a little bit of a wind, and it was rainy. And I'm like, let's just go down and score. I'm fine with that. And that's what we did, thankfully. So I don't even think we kicked an extra point. I think we went for 2. So the outcome of that experience, that game, was not only extraordinary, but also very, very unique.
Yeah, there wasn't a defense in the entire country that was going to stop our offense and Travis Henry from scoring at that situation at that point in time.
No. No,
well,
it's
Jeff,
almost like as we were driving down the field, it was just meant to be. Like, there's just no way they're going to stop. We can't be stopped. It's going to happen. I mean, did we even make it to third down?
No,
I don't know.
I don't remember.
No.
I mean, I don't think we ever made it past second down going in.
I mean, the only time they even stopped us for a yard or something was on the goal line when we didn't get it the first time.
Yeah.
That's the only time. Other than that, Travis got 3 or more yards every play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Neat experience.
Before we let you go, Jeff, do you have any interaction with the team at all? Do you go visit with the kickers or anything like that? Have a chance to go down there and check them out? And what do you think about our kicking core this season?
I don't. I kind of keep my distance. I'll take a couple of my kids over to a practice or a scrimmage every now and then, but I kind of keep my distance. I know Doyle over there. He went to Farragut. And such a great job and just a great story how he stuck it out and stayed at UT and won the job. So I know him from a distance, and I used to work some kicking camps a long time ago when he came as a camper. And I've had some interactions with some of the other guys over there. But you know what? That's their time. You know, yeah. I'm 40 years old. You know, I'm an owner in a business. I've got a wife, 4 kids, and a mortgage. I mean, that was a great time in my life, but I want them to enjoy it, and I'll take my kids over there to see a few things. And if they need me, they know how to get in touch with me. I mean, they can find anybody over there that's got my mobile number. Yes. So, you know, I just kind of keep my distance, and, you know, if they need me, I'm here, and if not, I'm fine with that too. So that's their time. They need to enjoy it and kind of go through their own process of figuring out how to be successful and what that looks like for them. Now, do I want them to be successful? Absolutely. Am I cheering for them? Of course. Can I empathize? Absolutely. So that's very, very limited involvement right now for me.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you came on the show. This is great. We've been having a great time doing this. I started this show about 1.5 years ago with a camera phone and a YouTube channel, and got Billy involved, and he's just been a natural, and he just loves interacting. We've had Fulmer on, we've had Antron on, and now Jeff Hall. And man, I tell you what, you're a legend at Tennessee, and I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, it's my privilege, my pleasure. Glad to be a part of the group. Glad to talk to Billy. Billy, I love you. I have the fondest memories of you, and always love seeing you. And for a guy who's got the biggest, kindest, most pleasant smile you could ever imagine, boy, you didn't want to be with him on the football field, lined up across from him.
Oh, man. Jeff, man, hey, thank you, man. Love you too, man. Thank you for being on the show, man. Hopefully have you on the show again this season as well, man.
I would love to. Can't wait to see you again. And Bobby, thanks for having me, and best of luck with the show. And Billy, we'll be seeing you soon, buddy. Football season's almost here, so
yes, sir.
We'll see you right around the corner.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
All right, gentlemen. Y'all have a fantastic day. Thanks for having me on.
All right. What do you think about that, Billy?
Hey, that's a good one, man. Once again,
you knew I was setting you up. You knew I was setting you up with that kicker stuff at the beginning, didn't you?
Oh, man. I said, hold on, man. And then, of course, once he started narrowing down the different kickers, and I'm like, okay. Then he said Benson. I said, hold on, why you say Benson? And then he came out with his. I said, oh, come on, Jeff, that's too easy, man. You got to make it a little bit harder. You might have to go and call Pat Summitt just so she can just say something and back from that and be like, okay, now I don't know who that is. That's not the Pat Summitt I know.
Wait, when you said something about that Frisbee, he kind of took issue with that. I think he was playing Frisbee, though. I'm going to go with you, Billy. I trust you.
Oh, man. I knew that was going to get him anyway.
So what were they doing? Just playing Frisbee golf, or just throwing the Frisbee back and forth? What were they doing?
Yeah, it's just what it looked like to me. It looked like they were just passing it back and forth to each other. And then I know I saw it with my own eyes.
I got your back on that one. So, Jeff, I'm sure you're going to watch this. I will have to side with Billy. He's my partner.
So hopefully we can get some of the other kickers that see the show and chime in the comments and see what they think about that.
I tell you, I was surprised he wasn't a golfer. I thought all kickers were golfers.
Man, I'm telling you, man, that golf deals with that back, and I mean, kickers typically have back issues. So I can't even imagine seeing kickers out there golfing unless they just doing it for business purposes.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about what he said is he didn't think about it. Those pressured icing the kicker, he just didn't think about it. When he went out there against Florida and Syracuse, he just didn't think about it. It becomes second nature. I wonder how many kicks he'd had to make every day to get to that point.
Well, I mean, if you see how many kicks they kick, man, they kick a lot. I mean, just like us, we got to get as many reps as possible until we got it almost to a perfection. We understand that it, like with him, through the upright, not to the left of it, not to the right of it, but straight down the middle. You know, it's the same thing with X's and O's. You got to have it perfect. And if that one person doesn't do their job, it's messed up. And that's the same thing with him. If someone doesn't block for him in front of him, his kick get blocked. So there's so much to it with the timing and all that stuff. It's amazing how it transpires into what it seems to be, because people don't realize all the stuff that goes into kicking a football. It doesn't just land right there. Someone has to snap it first. Someone has to catch it.
Yeah.
Then he has to kick it and hope that no one blocks it. It's so much more to it than just a kick.
I think the long snapper's got the hardest job. I think that's got to be harder than kicking.
It's
I
tough.
don't know. You're not.
It's tough. That's another story to talk about, man. We need to find us a long snapper and talk to them about that too.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to find us a long snapper to see what goes on with that. Who was the long snapper on your team? There's probably a couple of them, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
there was quite a few, and I don't remember the names and stuff. Let's see, who was it? I remember Kelvin Gregory was one of them. It's been a while, and I do remember that. I remember they tried to get me to do it, but I wasn't. That's too much work, man. That's too much. I'm already tired, and then have to run down on the field and then go back on the field on defense. No, I didn't even like to even do the up back to block for the extra point.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work on that football field, man.
Yeah. Well, guys, I appreciate you watching this. Another great guest, another great VFL. And like Billy and Jeff said, they love each other. They're a family. We're going to have some more players on the show. I've got some that I'm lining up. We just got to schedule it with their schedule and my schedule and Billy's schedule. But we're going to be cranking them out. But the best way you guys can help us is to like this video. Like and comment. Let us know what you think about our guest, Jeff Hall. And what's harder to do? Kicking a field goal, a 40-yard field goal, hitting a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, or, I don't know, hitting the green on a par 4. Put in the comment section what you think about that. But those of you that have been watching this for a while, y'all know what's coming next. Thanks for tuning in. Go Vols. Billy, I got you on that Frisbee thing. I think Jeff Hall was throwing the Frisbee in the complex. I promise you that.
Yes, sir.